everybody, it's Allison. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new year of Spellbinders monthly club kits. It is January and once again this year I am going to be working with the small die of the month and the large die of the month. As you know, die cutting is my jam, so that's what I'm going to be playing with this year. Now stick with me to the end of this video because I have another card to share, but let's get started on these two cards and let's look at the kits. This is the Botanical Atrium kit. This is the large die of the month for January, and you'll see these two big pieces that create the atrium. And then there's a bunch of flowers. So I'll show you all the pieces that come with the set. Now, my card, as you just saw, does not have the atrium. And here you'll see I cut out all my floral pieces already. This is the cutout for the atrium, and this is the piece that I'm going to be using, and I am turning it upside down. Now, I cut it out of white cardstock, and then I just cut it straight at the top, and I hot foiled this sentiment with Satin Rose Gold hot foil. And this is the set that I use, the Sweeping Celebrations. This is a better press set, but I did hot foil it again with that rose gold foil. So here was the idea, to just use this piece as a large banner. But after arranging some of the flowers, I thought it looked too plain. So I wanted it to have a border. So here's the full piece. The full size of this die compared to this A2 card base. You could actually make a shaped card with this die. It's that big. So first I tried just having the pink piece hang straight below my white piece. But again, I wanted the look of a full border. So I'm just going to play around here with these two pieces and try to get an even border all the way around. Now, the only problem is at the bottom, you'll see it's not perfect. It doesn't come to a perfect point because these are two pieces joining together, but that's okay. What I'm going to do right now is, again, just like I did with the white piece, I'm going to cut the top just straight because these are the edges that are going to go at the top of my card. And now I'm going to go ahead and attach my white banner to these pink ones. And I'm just eyeballing the spacing. I'm trying to get an even amount of spacing around the sides and the bottom. And I'm flipping it over just to make sure that those pieces are lined up together, like parallel to each other. So now I can glue this onto my second piece. And again, making sure that these pink pieces line up evenly. And that way I know that I've gotten an even border. Now this white piece is just hanging over a little bit, so I'll trim that off. And now I can go ahead and attach this to my craft card base. Again, this is an A2 card base. Now the florals that I used on this card are really easy to assemble, as are most Spellbinders flowers. So I'm not going to bore you with that. I'll just quickly show you this this flower. There are, I think, 5 pieces to this. For this middle piece in the front, I'm doubling it up just to give it a little dimension. But other than that, this card had very little dimension compared to most of my cards. I really just kept this card simple. And I'm using colors that I don't normally use. I once in a while, I like to challenge myself to use colors that I don't always use. So, for the leaves and the greenery, I used this brown cardstock. And so I mentioned I didn't use a lot of dimension. The only foam squares that I used were under this flower because it was straddling that other flower. Now I added some peach gems to the butterflies to give them some detail, and then a larger one to that peach flower. I feel like I could have added more florals to this, but there's a fine line that I often cross between not enough florals and too many. So I erred on the not enough florals this time. All right, now we're going to jump into this card. This was made with the small die of the month, which for this month is called Soaring Dragonfly. And here are all the pieces. There are 2 parts for the body. This piece right here creates detail for the body. I did not use that on my cards today. But there are 2 details to give the wings. And then there's a few little florals and then the word hello. Now, for the wings, I chose this die to create the detail, and I cut them out of rose gold glitter cardstock. This comes in a pack with other rose gold paper. I have used the silver and gold packs just like these, or just like this one. I use those all the time. Now, for the solid part of the wings, I chose this silver fleck tissue paper that I got in box 9 from Your Paper Insider. I've shown this in a video before. It's so beautiful and translucent, and I thought it would make perfect wings for the dragonfly. So to assemble, it's really easy. You just attach the solid piece with the cutout piece. Now here's the really special part of this card. I used the solid part of the body, and I created what looks like an embellishment versus just a plain old die cut. And I did that with embossing powders. Now, it might be hard to see on screen, but this has several layers of embossing powder. So it's somewhat dimensional, it's shiny, and it has flecks of different colors here and there. And this is what I use. This is Spellbinders embossing enamel. Now, as some of you may know, Spellbinders is not around anymore. And as a matter of fact, they're now part of Spellbinders. There have been several new stamp and die collections, but as far as I know, they don't make embossing powders anymore. But you can still find these online in various places. I know Amazon has some of the colors, but this powder has little flecks of gold and little bits of other colors here and there. There are other manufacturers that make things like this. Now, I'll talk about that later, but this is the speckled egg embossing glaze. I'm also going to use that. And let's start. And again, I'll talk about powders as we go along. Now, this is just a scrap piece of paper because I've already created my body. I'm just recreating what I did here. I have another scratch piece of paper. These are just pieces of paper from my trash, like an envelope. Somebody sent me a card in and some, I don't know what that is on the right. Now, this is a dirty Versamark pad that I use for techniques. And here's that embossing powder with the flecks in it. So I have 3 pieces of paper here. This paper on the right is where I'm going to just mash my Versamark ink into the piece of paper. I'm then going to drop it onto this clean piece of paper and cover it with the embossing powder. Now, I'm just going to pick this up by the edges with my fingers, dump off the excess, and now I'm going to put it on that envelope, my 3rd piece of paper. This is what I find to be easiest when I'm embossing shapes. Now, when I did the body of the dragonfly, I cut the shape first. I personally think you want the shape first. You don't want to do all this wonderful embossing and then put it through your die cutting machine. It's just going to ruin it. So I'm heating up my heat gun, and I'm just leaving this piece on the piece of paper, and I'm going to, because I don't want to touch it because there's embossing powder over the entire surface. So my heat gun I'm making sure that my heat gun doesn't blow the piece off this piece of paper. The piece of paper is just acting as a guard, kind of. So I'm going to emboss that. Now here we have the first pass, and it's pretty cool because you can see all those flecks of color, but it's not really anything all that special yet. Now I've let it cool off, and I'm going to do this again. I pressed my Versamark ink into the piece of paper. I'm going to dump it on here. Now, there's so much embossing powder right there. I figured I could just scoop it up with the paper. So I did do that for some of this, but I am going to go ahead and just dump a bunch more on here. Now, I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you, Wow embossing powders, there's a lot of embossing powders that Wow makes, the company called Wow, that have flecks like this, but you're going to see something that I do in a minute with that embossing glaze that you can get different colors of embossing powder, and I'll show you that with the glaze. So here we are heating up the second pass, And every time you add another level, it gets shinier and it gets kind of thicker. It gets just kind of more domed. So here's the embossing glaze. Now, if you're familiar with distress glaze, it's translucent. So here I am. Again, I'm using my 3 different papers. Now I'm picking up the powder with my fingers. I don't want to dump this on here. I am just kind of sprinkling it here and there. And that's why you don't need the Spellbinders powder. You can play around and add different colors of embossing glaze. You can add different colors of embossing powders. Just kind of sprinkle them here and there, and you can create your own little mixture, if you will. So again, I just sprinkled a little bit, and because this is translucent, it's not really going to cover up that color, but you're going to see it. So here's what we have so far. And I think it's really beautiful. Now let's look at what I have on my dragonfly. You can see my dragonfly is a lot more white. And that's because when I got to this point, the point that I am right here with this rectangle, it was just a little too creamy yellow for me. So now I'm taking my regular white embossing powder. And again, I am sprinkling just a little bit here and there. I don't want to just dump it all on there because I don't want to cover up all this wonderful goodness that I've already created. So I'm just sprinkling white here and there, and it's going to brighten the whole thing up. And we're going to do the last pass of embossing powder. And again, with every pass, it gets thicker, it gets shinier, it gets more dimensional, and it's like an embellishment. It's not, it's not just a die cut anymore. All right, this is the Woodland Tales paper pack. I love pattern paper. It was going to come in somewhere in this video. Now on the right for the card, you can see I ink blended around the paper with Distress Black Soot. And it makes such a difference. It makes it so dramatic looking. Now I use these peach gems for the eyes and a few sprinkled around the card. And those are the same gems I used on the first card, by the way. And it was really easy to attach to the dragonfly. I just glued down the center of the wings so that the outside edges of the wings pop up. And then attached the body. And it is so beautiful in person. I hope it comes across on screen, but, not my usual colors. It's very toned down, but it's very, I think, elegant, and I don't know. I love it. I hope you love it too. Now let's look at something completely different. This is still the same dragonfly, but remember there were 2 dies to create the detail for the wings, and I used the other die to create this dragonfly, and I really just wanted to go bold and colorful, and I love it. This sentiment is also a press plate that I foiled with black foil. It's called Let's Celebrate Sentiments, and then I just scattered a few black enamel dots, and that is it for that card. And it was really easy, and I love just the bold, fun look. All right, one last thing that I wanted to talk about, and that is there's lots of benefits to being a club member. One of them that I don't talk about a lot is that you get early access to monthly releases. Now, clubs always come out on the 6th of each month, and releases for the most part come out on the 10th. This month, as with most months, there are so many collections coming out, but one of my very favorite is, you may have already seen it on the website, is Winnie the Pooh collection. And this just tugs at my heartstrings because when I was little, as I bet most of us, I loved Winnie the Pooh. We had, the old books, and I think my mom used to sew little Winnie the Pooh characters. And I have been having so much fun creating with this collection. I can't wait to share it with you. But again, you get early access to releases. So definitely check that out if you're a club member and you didn't already know that. And there's a lot more releases. There's something for everyone. I guarantee it for this month. And I'm going to end things here for today. Thank you so much for watching. I always appreciate you joining me. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Now, if you haven't already hit the notification button, you might want to do that too because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff coming starting on the 10th and I'm really excited and I will see you then. Bye-bye.